Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. This is a Tuesday night and we have been trying to make Tuesday nights Shekhar Iyer's nights. Today he is available and he's joining us. Namaskaram Shekhar ji, how are you?
Namaskaram. Thank you, Shriyarji. Thank you very much. Nice to be back on your channel.
Yes, sir. And viewers, we want to talk a little bit about what is happening between the RSS and the BJP. There have been some statements coming from RSS. Does that mean that the RSS is critical of what the BJP is doing? Are they happy, unhappy? It lends significance because tomorrow is Vijayadashmi, and typically the Sarsang Chalak, who happens to be Sri Mohanji Bhagwatji, usually makes a speech and it touches upon a lot of things that sort of puts out the vision of the RSS maybe for the next year. So to understand all these things, let's seek out Shekhar Iyer's input. He has been following RSS for a long time. What is your thoughts, sir? Is this RSS is it censoring BJP or they're playing along? I'm ambivalent about it.
Well, the opposition parties have jumped on to, RSS General Secretary Dattatreya
Hosabale.
Hosabale,
Yeah.
and his statement saying that the problems of poverty are demon like in terms of statistics, and we need to tackle them. And he did not make anything critical statement. Rather, he was saying that we need to look at the job scene, and basically we will have to encourage more hard work rather than and stop this craze for white collar jobs. He was addressing the meeting of one of the RSS affiliate, that is Swadeshi Jagran Manch. Now the Congress jumped on into onto it and saying that look, finally even a group like RSS, which is engaging in quote unquote dividing the nation, has realized the problem of unemployment, which Rahul Gandhi is highlighting in the course of his Bharat Jodo Yatra and so on. Other parties also jumped on, but it's not exactly like that because for two three reasons. One, if you remember in 2019 when the economy had actually slowed down. I mean, that is the time the slowdown had a big impact on India. This was the before the pre-COVID condition, and the budgets, despite several measures announced in the 2019 budget, that did not get a very positive response from the industry and from other sectors. That was the time when Mohan Bhagwat addressed the Vijayadashmi of 2019, where everybody thought Mohan Bhagwat would come crashing down on the Modi government for the state of the economy then. But he didn't do that. In fact, he praised Prime Minister Modi and the government for the way they were coping up with the slowdown and the way they were trying to provide incentives for various sectors and so on and so forth. And at the same time, he did highlight the fact that we need to focus more on rural areas, create situations where more jobs can be had in the rural areas. And this has been the swan song of the RSS right from the beginning. You need to look at the village economy. You need to encourage local resources, local talent. And if you see what the RSS has been saying all along and what the Prime Minister did, during the COVID crisis and thereafter, he also spoke about local for global, encouraging local thing, and this whole Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. It is essentially a core philosophy of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. So therefore, to read in Dattatreya Hosabale's mentioning some statistics, and some of these statistics which the Prime Minister himself has said in several of his the whole thrust. Because when the Prime Minister speaks about the need to encourage local resources, the need to promote indigenous industry, need to become more self-reliant, a point which Dattatreya Hosabale welcomed but did not get highlighted. See, among the points that he mentioned was that the harsh fact or the more painful aspect of our country today. Yes, Dattatreya Hosabale acknowledged, yes, we are moving forward in several sectors. We are being acknowledged as the fifth largest economy, fifth or sixth largest economy. But at the same time, the fact is over 200 million people, are below the poverty line. That's about 20 crore people are below poverty line. So there is a need for policy tweaks so that we have more decentralized policy to fight, these challenges. Now, this is what exactly the Prime Minister Modi's approach is. Now, let me share a secret here, Shreyarji. Dattatreya Hosabale is high in the RSS hierarchy and most likely to succeed Mohan Bhagwatji, as RSS chief sometime. And the second thing is he enjoys very close relationship with the Prime Minister Modi. Dattatreya Hosabale was considered one among the most practical of the RSS top leaders who understands the difficulties involved in governance, and therefore has been very appreciative of Prime Minister Modi. And Dattatreya Hosabale has frequent interactions with Prime Minister Modi. Therefore, I do not see a situation that was witnessed during the first NDA government under Vajpayee, where leaders like K. Sudarshan, those days they used to go public with some comments. For instance, they openly opposed when Vajpayee government wanted to open up the insurance sector way back in '98. So to draw an inference that Dattatreya Hosabale was using a public platform to actually criticize the government is not at all correct. And of course, opposition tried to read in between the headlines and try to make a case as if the RSS is getting critical. RSS cannot get critical of Prime Minister Modi for the simple fact in lot of the government policies the RSS input is very much there. There are frequent interactions between top government ministers and RSS leaders, and anything critical that has to be said is directly conveyed to these top leaders and what needs to be done. And particularly, a lot of RSS leaders have been appreciative of the fact that the government has done, a lot by giving free food grains to more than 80 crore families, particularly to overcome this post-COVID situation. So I don't see any criticism there, but definitely flagging some of these issues means that RSS also wants to convey that they are aware of some of these facts. That RSS does not think everything is great about what is happening. Yes, there are areas of economy which are doing well, but there are also areas of economy which does concern them as much as it concerns the Prime Minister Modi and others. So, of course, what the Prime Minister Modi's approach is: look, let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. So there is a kind of an effect on other sectors of economy which are not performing well, so that gradually they all pick up. And the fact that the next year is 1 year for the government, still left before the general elections, where whatever incentives have to be given, whatever more booster dosage that is needed to keep the economy in full gear can be done only next year. So the budget of 2023, on which I believe the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji has already started work, is one important budget before the 2024 elections, because the 2024 budget will be sort of a vote on account budget. So one can't you don't have that room to do a lot. But the next year's budget is important. I believe a lot of inputs are coming. And if you look at even this year's budget, there were not many new announcements, because a lot of announcements had been made as soon as the COVID crisis was just lifting. So you saw the big announcement about the Atmanirbhar Bharat, where more than a lakh of crore was kept for boosting agriculture. So there are a lot of schemes, but more tweaks are needed. And the fact is that the Prime Minister has been often saying that we need to also change the mindset toward jobs. So people should no longer look at the government as provider of jobs. This is the point that is shared by Dattatreya Hosabale too, because the government has to be the enabler, so that and people also look at jobs in terms of, instead of seeking a white collar government job which the government cannot provide jobs anymore, rather to be, why not be an entrepreneur, take advantage of several schemes. And then why not those individuals who are qualified, who can themselves, instead of being ending up as a bank official or in some government babu, why can't they take up the challenge as an entrepreneur and then make available all these the financial resources which the government has been offering several schemes, and be a job giver. The whole idea being you are trying to find a job rather than, because that spirit, that spirit of entrepreneurship is something. Of course, we are seeing a lot of change in terms of startup India. We are seeing a lot of youths are coming forward to move into areas where hitherto considered unsafe. So a lot of things is happening, but more needs to be done. But at the same time, some immediate relief is also needed in the rural side, on the job sector side. That's why government has asked several of even the government agencies, departments to clear up the backlogs of vacancies which have been there, because some of the jobs were frozen. The pre-COVID crisis, during the slowdown crisis, when government wanted to keep its budget on a in a shoestring way for some time, but then they all opened up post COVID, and government is today the biggest spender of money to keep the economy revived. Shreyas.
Thank you, Shekhar ji. I want to get a little bit deeper into the concept of Atmanirbharta. And viewers, tomorrow we're going to have a in-depth discussion with General Ravi Shankar about Atmanirbharta, especially with respect to China. And I'm going to ask you a simple question, Shekhar ji. China is sort of a country which takes raw inputs from many countries, creates a finished product, and then sells it back to those countries as well as to the whole world. Now, the first critical step that Atmanirbharta has to pass is that when you make any product in India, can it be made less expensive than China? So, has the government looked at this and said, okay, here are some of the low hanging fruit? These used to be made in India, but since then they've gone to China. But by using these efficiency measures, you could come in and do this thing. And thereby, what happens is the raw materials will not go from here to China. That kind of denies them a little bit of oxygen. Then the import for India also goes down by the same amount, because the import will not be needed because India will do it itself. I'll give you a simple example, sir, not lamba chauda. Pharmaceuticals. India is one of the best pharma manufacturers because it's the most efficient, low-cost manufacturer. However, India cannot make its own APIs. This is a term that is used in pharma. I don't remember the exact expansion right now. Don't worry about it. But that's sort of like one of the basic ingredients that's needed. And for that, India looks to China. Has the government looked at some of those things? The other thing that is coming around the corner, not this harvest, but the next harvest, you're going to have potash problem, because potash is something that is going to be required for the whole world. Russia is probably going to hoard it or not give. China was not going to give. Ukraine was the other one. You have problems there. Potash, phosphate, these are all things that go into fertilizers. These may become in demand. For that, India needs to come up with equivalents. So the Atmanirbharta is going to be a bit forced on India. I'm sorry to take such a long time. The reason I'm saying all this is there are many examples where it is imperative that India do Atmanirbharta. Has the government started looking in that, focusing in some of these critical areas?
Of course, they have. In fact, what has happened this quarter, I should say, is in fact the Chinese imports of raw material has gone down from India, whereas India's import of finished products in key areas like electronics, they are still up. And after the opening up, the post-COVID scene, actually the market is picking up in India for their products, whereas they have cut down on the imports from India, saying that they are having a slowdown. This is one not so good news for us. But at the same time, if you realize, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the government of India has been announcing several productivity linked incentives, which is, if you try to make a product here, and if that product is also is made in with a kind of with a meeting the global standard with zero defect quality, then the government is giving you some incentives. We have seen that happening in the field of mobile technology and other electronic areas, where some of the Indian units are coming up. So it's a long-term process, but the biggest Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme's impact can be seen on the defense sector. Over 100 products, they have put it on a banned list, and on that includes even items like attack helicopters. Yesterday, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, what is called the light combat helicopter, which has been named Prachand, was put into service yesterday. And tomorrow is Air Force Day. We may see some of them displaying their prowess. Tomorrow being the Air Force Day in Chandigarh. Now, what has happened is, see, one point that the Prime Minister has been repeatedly emphasizing is, our manufacturing, our manufacturers must realize, if you have to be recognized at a global level, you need to do an honest, sincere job in producing a product that sells on quality. Because a lot of complaints have been coming in terms of what some of the manufacturers, I'm not saying all, some of the manufacturers try to, go on the sly, produce products that cannot match the global expectancy. Of course, China does it in a different way. It produces quality goods when it has to go to American markets or European markets, and the second grade ones come here, which is actually a kind of dumping when it comes to countries here or in Africa. But the emphasis on zero defect, something, a point that Niti Aayog has also been constantly saying, you need to make very good products that are on par. And of course, this 5G technology, which has been started, demonstrated in a way, and where in the Chinese companies have been kept out, a lot of incentives are being given for the Indian companies, who are probably entering into collaboration with some European firms, so that there are new areas where our companies have that requisite technology, have that requisite kind of skills that are required among their labor force. And but it's a process. It's not something we can say today, well, we are ready with this. That is not happening. So the from the government side, there is a lot of push, and the Indian industry is now noticing. Now, lot of Indian manufacturers, I mean, like Tata's with Mahindra, they have got into this military vehicle business, where they have already been delivering on some of the orders that our defense services have put. Similarly, when it comes to weaponizations, some of the weapons, some of the, yeah, there also you are seeing indigenous manufacturing is being encouraged with a lot of incentives, with, of course, I mean, emphasizing on quality, and as well as delivery. It's also important that Indian companies deliver on schedule, because the previous experience has been, they haven't earned a good reputation in terms of delivery schedules. So those are things that are being emphasized. So if the policies are consistent, and if the Indian industry continues to look at these policies as an opportunity to move into new areas, we will see a difference, Shekhar.
Yes, indeed. And I'm hoping that the emphasis, for example, in fertilizers, India has the technology. It's called Jivamrutam. And Jivamrutam is, you use cow dung and gaumium, and also you use jaggery. You use the local soil on which you want to create the fertilizer, and you put them in a vat, you mix them, let it ferment for a day or two, sometimes even a month, and then it is as good as fertilizer, and it's got the same amount of yield. It's been proven, sir. It's not like it's not proven. Jivamrutam is probably one of those things that India can do without needing any imports for the basic materials. I haven't seen that being pushed much. I've seen it in pockets where they are trying to do their own Atmanirbharta. There are places in India today that generate their own electricity, that generate their own food, that generate their own fertilizers for the food. They create their own, they build their own rice, they make their own herbs, and their product is essentially an Ayurveda ashram, where people come in, get cured for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever the problem is, and they leave after that. But the thing is, this is a beautifully self-contained ecosystem. I'm hoping more such ecosystems will come. I'm sure PMO is aware of this particular thing that I have mentioned. There are many such things coming up, especially along the border with Palghat in Tamil Nadu, where this is quite prevalent now. The question that I have for you, Shekhar, are you aware of any specific critical sectors where India can, like a low-hanging fruit, if you will, India can just immediately jump in?
Well, I think one of the things that the Prime Minister Modi did, soon after coming to power was, there were the reports of shortage of fertilizer in different parts of the country, if you remember.
Yes.
So that is the time he did, and the fertilizer manufacturers are they were very influential in the political circles. And in the way back, I think in the early 80s, you heard about the gold plating, where they used to claim incentives from the government for production figures that they never manufactured. That they would claim their units were working on. But what Prime Minister Modi did was a lot of
We have momentarily lost his connection. Maybe it is because he lost power, but don't worry, he'll be joining very, very quickly. In the meantime, may I request all of you to like this video, and also when the video finishes, to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so. There he is. He's rejoining again.
Yeah.
Please
So,
continue, sir.
so what the Prime Minister Modi did was he went in, he got the government to go in for, for a rule that the urea meant for the farmers would be neem coated. That was a shock and awe kind of treatment to these units which were, diverting and trying to claim subsidy. So the neem coating of urea was the first step. At this year's budget, if you recall, Shreyerji, there has been a lot of emphasis on natural farming, trying to, encourage farmers, and even, on an experimental basis, pilot scale, a lot of incentives are to be given for natural farming along the Gangetic plain, particularly along the Ganga River. This was announced in the last budget. I do not have exact details as to how that scheme has progressed, but because this is to look at the situation where, as you mentioned, it may be difficult for us to continue to import, that way, continue to import these fertilizers. That is one. Second is, by encouraging natural farming, as a national policy, the idea is because we are also facing a problem of overuse of fertilizers, which has affected our soil quality. That is also a bigger challenge before our farmers. So the idea is you tackle all this, the crises that are in the making, and also look for alternatives. Of course, under the Ayush scheme, the local indigenous, the Ayurveda, Unani, and other, they are also being encouraged. So that, in fact, medical tourism is an area where the government has been providing a lot of incentives. And as you mentioned, Palakkad and particularly Karnataka. Karnataka has several health spas which are actually providing Indian healing to many of these people who come to India for, of course, the medical tourism on the other side, but allopathy is already a big affair, Shreyerji. A lot of the hospitals in Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, they have been attracting for quite some time now. So, but these are, things in the pipeline. There are some policy programs, and constantly, I can see the effort by the Prime Minister Modi is to see that, to identify new areas which need incentive, which need that push. Of course, this is a big exercise in the making, and we cannot at the moment say that we have achieved a lot, but the effort is on. There is a tremendous efforts are going into this area. And in terms of indigenous technology, if you see, when it comes to even infrastructure, like our railways, the modernization of railways, there also the idea is we try to go for that is why Vande Bharat train is being showcased as one of our achievements in terms of locally produced trains, which are considered as world class, but they run at a lower speed because of they are capable of running at 200 kilometers per hour, but they have to run on our existing tracks. So these are some of the areas, even as that bullet train project which is there between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, which suffered during the period when this Agadi government was there. Now things are being picking up there, which is being constructed at the Japanese aid. So even infrastructure areas, you can see how the idea is, even in the making of new highways. The Nitin Gadkari, our transport minister, has been talking of using indigenous technology, indigenous resources to produce quality highways which can withstand that wear and tear over a longer period of time.
Thank you so much, Shekhar-ji. And let's take a quick look at the politics around the country. First off, let's start with Bihar. Mr. Nitish Kumar has probably one of the best circus artists of politics. He seems to always manage to land on his feet. And he has done one more chamatkar, and he has now formed a government with somebody who's known to be very, very corrupt. But he is still standing. Now, there are rumors floating around that perhaps not all is well with his party as well as the RJD, that there may be a Shiv Sena-like movement in the Bihar politics also. Do you subscribe to that view? And if yes, when?
Well, there are problems. Already you are beginning to see those problems. For instance, a senior minister like Sudhakar Singh, who was agriculture minister, who openly criticized Nitish Kumar in a cabinet meeting. And when Nitish took objection, he left the meeting in a huff. He belongs to Rashtriya Janata Dal, Lalu's party. Incidentally, his father Jagdanand Singh is the head of the Bihar unit of RJD.
Hmm.
But finally, Nitish had his way and got him to resign because Lalu could realize that Nitish was very angry. Yes, a number of JDU MLAs, particularly Janata Dal United MLAs, this whole thing happened in a surprising way. And Nitish, without able to convince or without taking anyone into confidence in his own party, bearing a handful, he has, tied up with Lalu, and it is now being increasingly felt by many of the JDU legislators also that RJD has been always a difficult party to deal with. Of course, Lalu and Tejasvi Yadav have got the benefit because they have got power. Whereas in terms of reputation of the government, in terms of delivery on the ground, there is a big question mark. And the Sudhakar Singh, left. Uh, he has been protesting against the procurement policy of the Bihar government, saying that they must scrap the policy that Nitish Kumar adopted when he was in partnership with BJP, and that scheme is a pet project of Nitish, and he has been criticizing that this has hurt the farmers. Therefore, the mandis will have to be revived. Because right now the procurement is done through what is called a primary agriculture credit cooperative scheme. See, he wants to go back to the old system, and that is not to the liking of Nitish. So when it comes to policies, there are areas where the RJD people, as we all know, many of them are I don't want to call them corrupt or anything. They got into the government only because they needed to mop up financial resources before the next Lok Sabha elections, then subsequent assembly elections. So they are in the lookout for where to grease their own palms. There is no doubt about it. And why Nitish agreed to this kind of thing, and he is no longer seen as a Sushashan Babu, but then the whole idea seems to be go for a caste arithmetic, which has always served Nitish Kumar well. The other backward classes, OBCs, the dominant classes like Yadavs, as represented through RJD, and Nitish Kumar's party and Nitish Kumar himself representing the non-Yadav backward classes like Kurmis and others. So it is back to that caste arithmetic and caste politics. But in terms of delivery and governance, questions are being asked. And with BJP in the opposition, they are not sitting silent, because you can see that there is a lot of aggressiveness on the part of the BJP. Well, caste is a bigger factor in Bihar. One cannot easily do away with caste. But people are beginning to realize, because ultimately, say in 6 months from now, what is it that the Nitish Kumar government will be able to showcase his achievement compared to its time? Because after all, he left RJD and came back here saying that the whole problem was because the RJD, the corruption was an issue. Now suddenly he is making out communism an issue. The same thing he did in 2013 when Modi was about to be declared as Prime Minister. So, Nitish believes that he is on a national agenda. He is going to provide the alternative to Prime Minister Modi in the 2024 election. He goes about meeting with Lalu's company, with Sonia Gandhi. And incidentally, no picture was released, all of three of them together. Lalu, Nitish and Sonia. First time, I don't know why Sonia did not allow a picture to be released along with these great gentlemen. That tongues have been wagging. Whether they went up to 10 Janpad, met Sonia or not, questions are being asked. Probably they did. But then why there was no official picture and no statement from the Congress, as to what happened in the meeting, what was discussed, what kind of agenda is being ready to unite, quote unquote, the opposition parties to provide an alternative to the BJP? There are several questions.
Shekharji, I have to ask you this question since you brought up Congress. Is this current election of the president of Indian National Congress, is it a real exercise or a farce?
Well, it has already become very farcical. You can see what is happening. Kharge's name cropped up suddenly, and Shashi Tharoor had met Sonia, and they had made it very clear that family is not backing anybody. So Tharoor, one must give credit to him that he went and filed his nomination. Subsequent to that, now he says that people are telling Rahul Gandhi, or at least people close to Rahul Gandhi are telling other leaders that somehow Rahul Gandhi should force Tharoor to withdraw. And August 8th is the withdrawal date. We have to wait and see whether Tharoor can. But then already Tharoor, who has been openly saying, this election is about between status quo as represented by a Gandhi controlled member taking over as president and his ideas for change. At least let there be a debate. Now, this is an act of courage by Congress standard, I would say, on the part of Tharoor. But what is happening is this is an election where, as I said, this Gandhi Parivar, any problem, the problem was the Rahul Gandhi not wanting to become the president of the Congress again. And they finally ended up being a problem who will be the Rajasthan chief minister, which was never an issue. I mean, this is a marvelous thing. You can convert one problem to some other problem at your cost, at your own cost. Now, Ashok Gehlot is not in a mood to quit as Rajasthan chief minister. He has made it clear he won't make face. So the Gandhi family has a choice now. Either they are very upset with Ashok Gehlot, whom they had trusted him so much to be their S-man as a Congress president. Suddenly they had to drop him and bring this Kharge. Kharge at 80 plus, I mean, he has never made a big impact in Karnataka, excepting for the fact that he's a Dalit leader. I mean, they can keep saying they made a Dalit as a Congress president. But some people are saying, he's going to be the accidental Congress president, like Manmohan Singh was accidental prime minister of the country. But here, with the challenges coming by way of elections in Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh, followed by a number of elections, I don't know whether even Kharge will, as a Congress president, will make an impact in Karnataka. Because Shreyerji, in Karnataka politics, Kharge is seen as anti-Siddaramaiah. He is more close to D.K. Shivkumar than Siddaramaiah. And Siddaramaiah will not be very happy with Kharge becoming Congress president. And, as a Congress president, you sit on those committees which decides the distribution of ticket. So, I mean, there could be a lot of things. But I cannot understand the simple fact, what was this all election about? I mean, if Rahul didn't want to become, because without the family, it's not going to run. We have seen when Sitaram Kesari was there as a stopgap arrangement. So Kharge will also be a stopgap arrangement. Or if the because at 80 years, Kharge doesn't have that energy, to do anything different, even if he wanted to. That is one. Second thing is today, Sonia Gandhi is in Karnataka. She's supposed to join Rahul's yatra. I am told she is in Mysore. She's probably weather prevented her from traveling to Mysore. I mean to Kurg, where probably the yatra is headed. So that there are some issues unresolved between Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, and Priyanka Gandhi also as to how to conduct this issue. So next few days, I think October 8th, we should see whether Tharoor actually withdraws his nomination or stays put. But we know, at least Tharoor himself knows what will be his fate, even if the elections are held, because it has been made out very clear from the Congress Parivar, from the Gandhi Parivar, that Kharge is their man. I mean, that's very clear from the day one. The day he filed his nomination, he was allowed to hold a press conference in the party office itself. The message is clear. But what kind of impact it will make nobody is expecting any big change to happen, because ultimately it is Rahul Gandhi, and Rahul Gandhi's ultimate desire is to get rid of all old people, bring his own persons. But actually what Congress needs is a good election victory. They need to come to power in one of the states. Are all these going to help Congress achieve that? I think the answer is big no. Shekhar.
Shekharji, one question regarding Kerala. Now, revelations are coming that as much as 973 people in the police force were actually informing PFI about the raid, that NIA raid that took place. And essentially, they were on PFI's payroll. You can think of it that way. Now, only 21 have been dismissed, is what I'm reading. Have you got some updates on this? Is Amit Shah going to put his foot down and say all these have to go?
Well, that kind of pressure will come from the center, but I do not know how Pinarayi Vijayan will act, because after all, in Kerala, the police, at least the top rung, we have always seen that they have very strong political affiliations. And a lot of questions have been raised about how the left parties, left leadership has been dealing with parties like SDPI, which is the political front of the band, the PFI. So what kind of actions will be taken? Now this is all tumbling out, because PFI has been known to use resources not just with the police force, even with the sections of the media. because the kind of PR machinery they were engaged, they had engaged. One could make out that they were very effective in trying to convey that PFI is one of the most peace-loving organization, which only cares for every downtrodden, not just the Muslims. This is the image they have tried to build. But then the violent streak in them got stronger and stronger every day. And what has come to light is this, because in Kerala itself, we have seen, some of the media and even the political, I would say, the narrative there has not been very truthful when concerning activities of organizations like PFI. I mean, the kind of, because Kerala government never came out and said ban the PFI first, or did not do anything to stop the PFI, because because we saw it in the last election, because the left parties, the Pinarayi Vijayan's essentially in the Kerala politics earlier, what we used to see was the Marxists were generally seen as actually the CPIM was seen as the Hindu party, because they were more keen on getting the Hindu votes, because the Congress with its with the IMFL, I mean with the Indian Union, with the IUML, and so it was seen as more depending on the votes of Muslims and Christians for its electoral the dividends. Now that underwent change, because Pinarayi has also been actively cultivating sections of the Muslim leadership in Kerala, so that the Marxists don't lose out on that. So when you have that kind of strategy, or what you call the vote bank politics, then you tend to be soft on organizations like PFI. And that is coming to light now when more and more things tumble out as to how organizations like PFI have been managing their show with their base in Kerala. And from there, they managed to spread to 23 states. And in 15 states, they were so active, you needed a nationwide crackdown.
Now, viewers, on Thursday at 8 o'clock, we're going to have an expert who will help us understand the penetration of PFI into various walks of life. And this is going to be a stunner. Don't miss. It's on Thursday. So, like I said, let's take a look at the overall picture now in the states that are going to elections. Gujarat, there was action yesterday in Dwarka. I don't know if you caught up with that, Shekharji. This was a consequence of PFI activity, and they found out that the place where Krishna made his residence, there's a small island called Dwarka, and there are lots of illegal constructions. We have just momentarily lost Shekhar Iyer. He'll be coming back. So there is a video that I put out on this, what happened, how this was, the action took place. It's a small island, 7,000 people, about 5,500 Muslims, and the rest are Hindus, of course. And what happened there, a police force of 1,000 people went and destroyed 15 illegal structures. And these are all consequence of the PFI raid, because more data is coming out. Shekharji, PFI raids are now throwing up many other things that are happening. I just talked about Dwarka. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we kind of take our questions from our viewers?
Well, the PFI has been one of the long thing which was waiting, and the reason for the delay has been explained earlier. Also, the fact that they wanted the NIA to get as much details as possible and to bring the surprise element, because the PFI leadership did not expect this kind of action. They thought Modi government would not dare, but the fact that a number of opposition ruled governments were also had to be roped in, and they got involved in this raid is, of course, the NIA to its utmost stability, ensured secrecy at several places. That's why they managed to catch so many of the top leaders. But this only goes to show that, already we are seeing in Gujarat. Now, take for instance what's happening in these. This is a festival season in Gujarat, particularly Navratri is on. Now, I hear reports today, in some places in Gujarat, there have been communal clashes, stone pelting, attempts to break into the garbas, where because because there has been a sense of fear that sometimes non-Hindus try to get in there and try to create problems, because the Garba is one season where men and women are happy dancing to the beats of the traditional drum, or even to latest Bollywood numbers. This is such a festival mood, but we are seeing, like in places in Baroda, there have been clashes, or in one place I'm told where some Islamist flags were put up near the Garba venue, which created a lot of tension. So you can see that, after the PFI ban and the way some of the PFI functionaries have been trying to issue threats, you can see that there is an itch to create communal tension, and which could have a bearing on the Gujarat elections also.
Thank you very much, Shekhar ji. And now let's take some questions for Shekhar ji. Seshadri Nathan wants to know, or Nathan, we only blame center for employment. Are states not equally responsible or mainly responsible?
Well, center is always blamed for the simple reason because a number of policies at the central level or the national level were not seen to be so much encouraging that kind of employment generation. But those have been tweaked over the years. Yes, the states are responsible, and some of the state governments, what has happened is because, particularly in the opposition rule states, it is easy for them to blame the center, saying, "Look, it's central policy which is creating situation." But the fact is, we have had a situation of a global slowdown, the pre-COVID period, which also had its own impact in the our own slowdown. Then the COVID hit us very badly. For 2.5 years, we have seen virtual closure of manufacturing, and then now things are picking up. Yes, the states will also need to, because ideally, the situation would be where the states are competitive to attract investment. That's the ideal situation where we have already seen, like states like Gujarat. Gujarat has been very competitive right from when Modi was chief minister there, trying to attract industries to come there, set up plants. That's why when Vedanta shifted one of its units from Maharashtra to Gujarat, because the Gujarat government offered them free land and a lot of host of things. Of course, that has a political turn, because since there is a new BJP breakaway Sena alliance in Maharashtra, they had to, finally 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙬, the chief minister, spoke to Prime Minister, and I think the Prime Minister has hinted to the Maharashtra government that Vedanta would come with a similar offer, so that in terms of jobs, the Maharashtra doesn't face a loss. But the state governments need to realize, all the time there is so much of politicking, that they need to do better to attract investment and keep that investment, the process in a full gear, because a lot of time is wasted, because a lot of attention is paid on the welfare side, because the welfare angle is so much. So our debates are more about freebies. Today Election Commission said, look, we need to have some guidelines when it comes to announcing freebies. You can't just promise voter the moon and then don't deliver anything. So that debate has already started with Election Commission today, thinking of coming out with a paper, with a discussion paper on how responsible the political party should be when it comes to freebies. But I wish, there is a lot of debate also in terms of, attracting investment, which is not happening. Of course, some of the states have realized that they need to go global. Even Pinarayi has been, holding investment meetings in abroad, and he has been sending teams to get investment in his state. But then that is not shared by other parties. Congress, particularly, is playing a spoil sport there, because Congress itself doesn't, as an opposition party, has no ideas. I mean, they think that first thing is to get this government out in 2024, then they can think of. But then even the Congress governments in Rajasthan, for instance, or Chhattisgarh, well, they bring out big ads in newspapers. But in terms of, what can be done, because all the time they look at center, but then this is the first time when the central government has come up with several schemes, several policy, possibilities, which the state government can tweak in their own way and attract investment, because that's the only way you can generate jobs. Because state as a big employer, that's not going to happen at all, and that's a harsh reality. You have seen how changes have been made, even the defense recruitment, this Agniveer, the change was sought to be politicized, but the fact remains that today our armed forces are more technology driven than manpower driven. Shreyaji.
Next question, please. Manu S. Kumar wants to know, with PFI ban, what will be the future of politics in Kerala? Will BJP gain a substantial foothold?
Well, this does open up opportunities for the BJP, but then, the demography of Kerala is such. The fact is that Hindus are not majority community in Kerala. If you count them separately and if you count Muslims and Christians together. I'm mentioning this for the simple fact, not that the parties cannot seek vote of all communities. Of course, they will seek. But what has happened is the coalition politics in Kerala, and also the fact that the Congress led the UDF front and the CPM led left front. They have been looking at this. They have been looking at this demographic factor, which has kept this coalition circus going for a long time there. That is a simple reason. And the fact that BJP cannot do, cannot outbeat them because they need coalition partners and they will have to get this, because the Hindus themselves, if you assume that Hindus are going to be the biggest backers for BJP in Kerala, they are not numerically more than Muslims and Christians put together. That's a kind of a challenge for BJP in Kerala, because Congress will continue to get votes of the good sections of the Christian community, and its partners IUML has got the sections of other minority communities, the Muslims, and left on its part is also wooing Muslims. Apart from the fact that the bigger voter base is among Yaravas, so that's a bigger base for left. But then left is also looking at these possibilities. But the BJP's other problem in Kerala for some time, Shri Ayerji, has been a lot of infighting. Is also a big factor. I mean, I must mention this because despite every attempt by the central party directing the BJP leaders work together, this has been a problem there. But the bigger challenges in terms of demography, in terms of region-wise voting pattern, are there for BJP to look at and see how they can overcome it.
Well, Kerala needs to find its own anomaly, I guess, and so does Karnataka. Maybe Karnataka has somebody, is still in the works. Definitely, Tamil Nadu has found a really good, capable leader in anomaly. Let's see how this plays out in the days and weeks and months to come. Shekharji, as always, a pleasure having you on our channel, and we will be again seeing you on next Tuesday to talk more about the politics in India. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you very much.